Welkom bij de Drop or Dram bonus aflevering. Een aflevering waar we wat dieper ingaan op de net geproefde whisky. Ciara had te veel moois en lekkers bij zich en moest ons gewoon wat meer vertellen. Onze interesse was al gewekt, dus drink nog even een extra glas in en luister gezellig met ons mee naar wat wij meer te hebben vertellen. Proost! En nog steeds zit ik midden in het centrum van Den Haag in de Malt Vault, een van de mooiere nieuwe whiskybars. En ik heb nog steeds aan het tafeltje met Ciara. En we gingen nog eventjes wat dieper in, want we hebben al zo vreselijk veel verteld. En ja, als zij aan het praten is, dan houdt ze niet op. Want ze is gewoon zo gepassioneerd over haar prachtige product. En ik denk terecht, want ik heb het geproefd. En we hebben je wat tasting notes meegegeven. Maar het is natuurlijk best wel bijzonder. Een klein eilandje waar je gewoon met een idee komt om deze whisky te gaan maken. En uiteindelijk maak je ook een whisky. En dan heb je een prachtproduct. Maar dat prachtproduct wat we in die single malt fles hebben, dat is niet zomaar. We gaan even een deconstruction doen. I love Raasay. If I look at the label, you were telling me already in the first conversation we had 6 type of casks. And this is a summary more or less of those 6 type of casks. And if I look at a conservative way, like all the whiskey nerds, we do conservative things like first fill, second fill, bourbon cask, sherry cask, Oloroso casks, maybe a PX cask. Nope, you do different things. And you do totally different. And we have a deconstruction here on my table. And let's have a closer look because I tasted the summary. But take us through the different types of casks. And maybe we can have a taste of all of them and see what the components look like.
Sure. So when we spoke earlier, I mentioned that word nashia, which means the 6. And sometimes our single malt is referred to as nashia single malt. So the 6 really refers to the 6 cask types that make up the hele Raasay single malt. Now there's really only 3 cask types, but as we mentioned before, 2 spirit types. So one's filled with unpeated spirit and the other with heavily peated spirit. So that makes 6 overall. So the first cask type that we're working with is a virgin oak, and it's virgin chinkapin oak. So not something that's commonly used in Scotch whisky.
Chinkapin oak.
And certainly not something that's used as part of a core recipe for Scotch whisky distillery. There are some other distilleries that have used chinkapin oak before, but not as part of this kind of a core single malt. So the chinkapin oak, if you've not heard of it before.
That is a very exotic name. It's really, really good. And I didn't ever see it in IKEA. So tell me more. What chinkapin oak? What's chinkapin oak?
So it's an American oak. It's an American white oak from Central America. And it's a very sweet oak. Now, we ask that these are virgin oak casks, and they come to us highly charred and freshly toasted. So the char level that they come to us are around 4. So alligator skin, black on the inside. Now, as I mentioned, it's a very sweet oak. You can actually eat the acorns off the tree. And they really give our single malt a real kind of sweet character to it. For me, the sweetness is kind of balanced out with a bit of kind of savoury notes too. And if we think about some very sweet flavours that you find some kind of savoury notes in, it's like a butterscotch or, maybe a salted caramel. And the chinkapin, for me, you also get some granary notes and maybe some honey and heather as well. We are classed as a Highland distillery and we use Highland barley. So the honey and heather notes are perhaps coming through from that barley too. But the chinkapin gives our single malt a real sweetness overall.
And it's fully matured on chinkapin, so it's not a finish, it's fully matured on that type of oak.
No, for the core single malt, we don't use any starter or finishing casks. They're exclusively and fully matured. This chinkapin is, as I mentioned, virgin oak. What we'll most likely do is refill those casks and lay them back down. But for the purposes of this batch of single malt, it is really it's virgin Chinkapin oak.
Wow, amazing. Well, let's have a taste of it. Just as a deconstruction, which one is the Chinkapin? I haven't got a clue because there's beautiful.
We'll work this way. So we'll start at the end here.
Okay. So I haven't got my reading glasses.
No, we'll start here.
All right, we'll start there.
So this is unpeated spirit matured in first fill Chinkapin oak.
Wow. I just have a wee drop. And it's a beautiful, beautiful dark golden dark color, almost like maple syrup color.
Yeah.
And in the nose also. It is so sweet.
It's so sweet. You should really start to get some of those kind of caramel or salted caramel notes that I spoke about.
I would never expect to have this. You were talking about the sweet acorns and the sweet oak, but this is a different type of sweetness in there. It's not the sweetness you would find in ex-bourbon cask, like with the corn and everything. But
interestingly, so we talk about oak species a lot at the Raasay distillery. So within these 3 cask types, there's 4 oak species in total that we like to talk about. The Chinkapin oak, although I did say it was an American oak, it's not Quercus alba, which you might know is commonly matured ex-bourbon, and of course ex-rye as well. This oak species is Quercus muhlenbergi, not commonly used in Scotch whisky. And actually, in the past, American oak wasn't defined as separate things. We just spoke about American oak, and what we really thought we were talking about was Quercus alba. It was actually the wine guys in the Napa Valley that first separated different types of American oak. You may know the term woody Chardonnay. And it was them that really started looking into the different types of American oak and how that affected their wine maturation. So when we talk about this being American oak, the oak species is Quercus muhlenbergi rather than Quercus alba.
It gives such a different note to the nose and the palate. Maybe sounds a little bit quirky when I have my mic and trying to sniff at the same time, but the sweetness comes through, but it's a full-bodied sweetness. It's got this little spicy notes in there. Like I said, straight away it made me think of maple syrup, and I've got a sweet spot for maple syrup, and that kind of was coming back to me. It's also got the color of it, but it's some totally different sweetness that you would normally find. Not at all the vanilla and citrus notes you will find in a Quercus alba. Yeah, it's absolutely completely different. And if you would give me this blind, I would say it's a fresh European oak with the spicy notes in there, but not the sweetness. I would never imagine to have the sweetness in there. And, wow. Flabbergasted.
Yeah, the Chinkapin has that effect on people, and I think it is just because it's something really different. I think it's a flavour profile that people maybe aren't necessarily used to.
Maybe it's like I said in our first conversation. It's a very bold move to build a distillery on a remote island, a forgotten island, and taking all the stuff over there and doing your stuff with a type of style that has been lost along all the ages. But this is also a bold move. And on the other hand, if I taste it, it's not so bold. It is very obvious to choose something. I can't imagine why other people don't have it. Maybe just keep our voices down and not tell everybody how good it is, because otherwise the other distilleries will maybe copy it and get it.
Yeah,
so, and it's only one part of the single malt you have.
We talk about ourselves being innovators, and I guess loads of people in Scotch whisky call themselves innovators, and maybe there's loads of innovation in Scotch whisky, but I think for a lot of new distilleries, the cask composition, I guess the overall kind of message it can be fairly similar. Sherry, bourbon mix, whether you're producing one spirit type, whether that be heavily peated or unpeated. Whereas we really set out to do something differently, and not for the sake of being different, but just because we were passionate about what we were doing. And as I mentioned, Raasay started distilling in 2017. there was so many other Scotch whisky distilleries that also started producing in 2017. So, how do you find where you are? How do you find your place?
Not only by your geological map. It's not about just being on an island, because there's so many distilleries on an island. That's the easy part.
Exactly, and we really believe that we've created something unique and extremely unique at the hele Raasay distillery, and I think this 6 cask recipe and the hele Raasay single
and
malt.
Talk about the 6 recipes. We did the chinkpin. And, we can talk about hours of the chinkpin, but like you said, it's 6 type casks. It makes up of 6 different casks. Which one next?
So
you choose.
Let's maybe move on to one of the peated cask types.
Yes.
I think the peated red wine is probably a perfect example.
Peated red wine. Okay, that is interesting as well.
So
Because red wine, you see more and more red wine coming. Also a forgotten cask, which would have been very, very obvious to use anyway. I guess a bold red wine, not just a Burgundy or Beaujolais wine, because that would not go with the peated ones.
No, so we're working exclusively with ex-Bordeaux red wine casks. And I should point out that these are fresh red wine casks. They're not recharred, they're not STR casks. Fresh red wine casks straight from Bordeaux. We buy them October to February, so they come to us in the colder months, so they don't require any cleaning whatsoever. So they're pretty much as fresh as they can be. And we request that they're used for at least 3 vintages before they're sent to the hele Raasay for maturation.
So they have enough of the red wine into the wood and soaked up enough of the red wines and the tannins to give the flavour to a strong spirit.
Exactly. We're working with 3 chateaux in particular in Bordeaux. Chateau Margaux, Chateau Calon-Ségur, and Chateau Mouton Rothschild.
So you're not just picking a few Bordeaux names. It's just the best of the best.
Yeah, I think to create, as I said earlier, a single malt with balanced complexity and depth at a young age, there's a few things that you need to do along the way to create that. One of them is, great new make spirit, and the other is great wood. So we only work with, we've got a really strict wood policy. We only work with the best.
Hugely expensive. If you only buy a box, an empty box of the Chateau Margaux, and it's just stated Chateau Margaux, you already have to pay a lot of money. And with the car. Oh, ja, mensen, ik proef hem gelijk. En waar ik net al de zoetheid zei, waar ik even verbaasd over was. En echt heel erg verbaasd over was. Dat krijg ik in de rode wijn. Met natuurlijk prachtige namen. Chateau Margaux, kom op. Mouton Rothschild. We hebben het over de beste Bordeaux wijnen die we kunnen vinden. En fresh Bordeaux. Met die heavily peated, dat proef je wel. Alleen de geur inderdaad is heel erg overstemd door de rode wijn. Een sterke rode wijn natuurlijk. Maar zodra je hem in je mond krijgt, dan complementeert het elkaar heel erg mooi. I was just saying, in the nose, you wouldn't say it is a peated one because of the red wine notes are really dominant. But in the taste, it's like flavors come together. But taking a sweet one we just had on the chinkpin and now red wine and putting those together to balance it out. Well, we're not there yet. We still have some other casks to go. But wow, these are huge different type of flavors.
They are, and I think the peated red wine is a great way to showcase our peated spirit. It's actually the way that we're producing the 2 spirit types are different. So our peated spirit is a heavier spirit. It's more oily. And with the red wine, it really brings out a kind of coastal saline saltiness. As I mentioned before, we're matured by the sea. So there should be a real coastal influence in our single malt. And for me, it comes out the most in the red wine casks. Now, our distillery character, that lightly peated with rich dark fruits, the rich dark fruits that we're looking for is really found in these red wine casks. That kind of, blackberries, blueberries, really dark cherries. And in the unpeated red wine, you kind of get more of a lighter red fruit like strawberries.
Really, really lovely. So that's the second component of the single malt. And putting these 2 together, that would make an interesting single malt on its own. With the sweetness level, way up there, and now the spicy level way up there. You probably need something to balance it out a little bit.
Yep. So we'll stick with the peated because you've had the peated red wine now, and we'll move on to the ex-American rye casks.
Oh, American rye casks. You see a lot of the rye casks out there at the moment. Most of the rye casks I know are a little bit dry, and I love the small dryness in it.
So for our ex-American rye casks, we're working with predominantly Woodford Reserve. A few reasons why. Woodford Reserve have a fairly low rye mash bill, so around 53% rye. So what we're looking for in the rye casks is that kind of black pepper and spicy note, and not the grassy note that you get in distilleries that have a high rye mash bill. So that's why we're working with Woodford. The other reason, going back to that strict wood policy, Woodford Reserve have a really strict wood policy. So we're buying into that when we're working with them directly for these casks.
Yeah, definitely. I totally, like I said, the rye is always a dry note to it, and like the dry nuttiness in there, which really balance it out. And it's not as dominant, the flavor profile with the heavy. It's the same heavy spirit you use in the red wine ones.
Exactly.
Like
yeah.
peated. Because the peat level seems so low, so much lower because of the rye.
Yeah, and the other thing with the rye casks, we'll speak about the oak species. So this is Quercus alba oak, so you should be getting some of those vanilla notes. But in particular, what we're really looking for is that black pepper and that spicy note.
Yeah, totally managed it. Now, if we put these three together in the right order, we can balance a lot of the bold flavors we had before out there. And this is different, but you're not done yet. You make it yourself pretty difficult because this wasn't good enough. You took it just one step further. You had 3 other types of casks.
We did, yeah. So we've of course spoke about the 3 cask types that we're working with. So virgin chinkapin oak, the ex-Bordeaux red wine casks, and ex-American rye. So those we have 3 unpeated casks, and then we have the same again but with peated. So that is the 6 cask types in total.
Wow! And the other type of casks, you got the rye, we got the red wine casks, and we got the chinkapin. Peated and unpeated. So with those is balancing out the peat level in there, but it's the same bold flavors.
Exactly.
So very well done. It's absolutely amazing. It's very complex to make all those kind of different flavors, putting in those casks, see how they mature, and then getting the right balance in there. As I said, we just tasted the Isle of Raasay single malt. Your flagship, and we don't call it a flagship, it's your core expression. It is the heart and soul of Isle of Raasay whiskey, I guess. And this is where your standard is, and it's on a high level, and you take it from there. So in the near future, you probably go out and, well, we were talking not experimenting, but with these kinds of casks and these kind of types of whiskey, there's bound to be more.
Yeah, so these 6 cask types make up to around kind of 85% of our stock holdings, and this really will be our core single malt recipe for years to come. And it really encapsulates everything that we're doing at the Isle of Raasay distillery. We do have some other weird and wonderful cask types tucked away.
Can we talk about that secretly?
Yeah, of course. So we do have a really small proportion of ex-bourbon casks. We've got some Four Roses casks, for example. And of course, we do have some sherry casks maturing too. Last year at the distillery, we introduced a distillery special release bottling, which was peated spirit, firstly matured in rye casks, and then finished in both Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez quarter casks. Some of that has actually been made available in the Netherlands. But up until recently, it's been a distillery-only exclusive. And then other cask types, we've got everything from other types of virgin oak casks, looking into these oak species, which we've briefly touched on with this deconstruction. We have Quercus humboldti casks, which is, Quercus humboldti is grown in the Andes. It's Colombian oak. So those are really, really interesting, almost kind of like those of burnt creme brulee flavours. And we've got some port, some rum casks maturing too.
Oh, so there's bound to be beautiful specials. So keep an eye on this lovely new distillery, Isle of Raasay. New distillery, 2017. If you listen back to our podcast in about 5 years' time, and you think about, I heard about a new cask coming out and all those bold flavors. Maybe in 5 years' time, you're too late. We were talking about October 22 when we were recording this podcast. So when you listen to this back into 2025, then it was one of those core expressions you only buy in an auction. You were too late. But still, plenty of to see. And with the core expression, which is a beautiful expression on its own, and the in-depth flavors you gave us, Ciara. Thank you so much for the inside information. So for all those nerdy guys and whiskey geeks like I am as well, want to have just a sneak in-depth view of the whisky this bonus is all about. En als je natuurlijk nog niet zo heel veel van whisky weet, we hebben het altijd over Schotse whisky, minimaal 3 jaar gerijpt. Nou ja, deze distillery heeft nu net 4 jaar whisky. En gerijpt op eikenhouten vaten. Maar dan niet zomaar eikenhouten vaten. We hebben laten zien dat dat over de hele wereld vandaan kan komen. En Isle of Raasay is een van die whiskies die dat dan ook nog even een stapje verder doet. En best wel even exotische houtsoorten gebruiken. Dus keep an eye on this distillery. En mocht je ooit een keer zeggen van dat moet ik een keertje komen proeven, dan moet je onder andere naar de Malt Vault in Utrecht of de Malt Vault hier in Den Haag komen, waar ze gewoon op de plank staan en waarschijnlijk waar altijd nog wel zo'n speciale expressie ooit zou komen. Ciara, I want to thank you so much for this in-depth view of this beautiful whiskey, which was a mystery to me as well. And I only knew it by name, and well, it's so good to discover every time new things. But thank you so much for inviting me and having this opportunity. And we'll see each other on a fair or whiskey festival, whatever, or maybe even on the beautiful island of Raasay.
Of course. Well, thanks for having me and Slanjava.
Slanjava.
Dit was Drop or Dram. Vergeet niet om je te abonneren op onze podcast of kijk op onze website www.dropordram.nl. Tot de volgende keer.